Now we would like to move on to the next session, titled An Interaction Panel with Activists. I will pass on to the microphone to Mona Lisa, who will moderate the next session.
Thank you, Akimi. Hello, everyone. My name is Mona Lisa Hazarika, and I'm the youth coordinator for RTT South Asia and the moderator for this panel. So keeping in momentum, our next panel comprises of activists from around the world who have been involved in the field of nuclear disarmament and climate justice in one way or the other. And so first, I would like to invite Ms. Rika Watanabe, who is the international coordinator at Peaceport. Now, Peaceport is a Japan-based international NGO working to promote peace, human rights, and sustainability. Now, with over 35 years of experience, they have organized around 70 around-the-world voyages, visiting more than 200 ports in 80 countries. Thank you for joining us today. Ms. Watanabe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mona Lisa, and thank you, everybody, especially the organizers, for this invitation. And I'm very, very glad to meet my fellow speakers, especially Dr. Sugiono, long time no see. It's very, very nice to see you again. And also Mr. Warham, very good to speak. Thank you very much. And I'm very, very glad to see you all tonight, this morning, this afternoon, or this evening as well. So my name is Rika Watanabe. Thank you very much, Mona Lisa, for inviting me. And also, I would like to explain what Peaceport is in the first place. And then probably in the discourse of this nuclear disarmament talk and discussion, probably people think, what on earth the people in Japan doing in this situation? So I would like to take this opportunity to show some examples that people in Japan is doing from Japan side. So I hope that I can show you some like hopeful like activities or initiatives from Japan. So let me show you my slide. I hope you can see it now, right? So Peaceport is the boat. And then probably some of you have been on board as guest speakers or just the passengers on our ship. You're more than welcome to join us in the future. But then Peaceport is a Japan-based international NGO working to promote peace, human rights, and sustainability, guided by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. And Peaceport's global voyages offer a unique program of activities centered on experimental learning and intercultural communication. With over 38 years of experience, we are pretty crazy, but we have been organizing around 70 around the world voyages, visiting more than 200 ports in 80 countries. We're pretty crazy. On the ship, we have some space and time along with traveling around the world and sailing around the world. So we are organizing a lot of lectures, workshops, and dialogues between the people on board, and dealing with the global issues such as history recognitions, dealing with the conflicts and creating peace after conflicts, and SDGs and climate changes, of course. And we have the SDGs logo on the side of the ship even. And of course, nuclear disarmament is one of the big and very important themes that we are dealing with on the ship and on land as well. And what we are doing on Peaceport is, since 2008, Peaceport has been organizing the global voyage for a nuclear-free world, Peaceport Hibakusha project. By the way, Hibakusha is the word, Japanese word meaning survivors of the use of nuclear weapons. And so far, up until today, over 170 hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors, have traveled to 100 cities in more than 60 countries with Peaceboat. And by the way, it is available on internet. We issued a booklet from the United Nations titled Disarmament Education, the Peaceboat Model. You can read it and you can download it for free from the United Nations website. So please visit it website. And how we are doing this project is like this. As a steering group member of 2017 Nobel Peace Laureates, the Aiken, the International Campaign to Abolish Nuclear Weapons, Peaceboat has and will in the future continue to play a critical role conveying or sending the inhumanity of nuclear weapons through hibakusha's own words and experiences, which is really, really important. So these photos are some examples. On the right-hand side, probably you can see elderly man who is one of the hibakushas speaking to both what happened on the day in 1945 and how it influenced his life afterwards. And another photo on the left-hand side is showing how people of the ports listen to them. So this is the example, like a high school students in Sweden met hibakusha for the very first time. And the hibakusha was 16 years old when the atomic bomb was detonated on his city, Hiroshima. And he went like this: I was your age. I was 16 years old when the atomic bomb was detonated over my city. And the students, young students in Sweden attracted, young students' attention was attracted by him. So this kind of very in-person like communication is the way that we are conveying the stories and personal experiences of hibakusha, atomic bomb survivors. But you know, hibakusha are not only from Hiroshima and Nagasaki and not only Japanese citizens, but also we have global hibakusha all over the world. Even though hibakusha longed for the total abolition of nuclear weapons over 76 years now, the world still faces the grave threat of the existence of more than 13,000 nuclear weapons, like Dr. Warham said earlier. So we created occasions where survivors of the atomic bombs of Hiroshima and Nagasaki could communicate and exchange their experiences with global hibakusha, those who were impacted by nuclear testing, uranium mining, and other nuclear developments around the world, like Australia, of course, French Polynesia, like Tahiti, Marshall Islands, and Fukushima in Japan. And also we are aware that the hibakusha in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, originally from Korea, China, Taiwan, Indonesia, and Malaysia, who were forced to come to Japan as Japanese citizens sometimes, but they were not fully compensated by Japanese governments after the World War II. So those are the issues that we have to be aware as well as Japanese citizens and also the passengers of Peaceboat. But we are facing this COVID pandemic worldwide. It is not currently possible to carry out our global voyages like we did in the past. So, but we believe it is even more important to keep those opportunities for people around the world to listen to hibakusha online or in person, because we cannot afford investing such big amount of money to maintain or create nuclear weapons. We need to invest more financial and human resources to climate change or diseases like COVID. So the hibakusha themselves have prevented the repeat of nuclear wars, and yet as their average age is now almost 84 years old, and many have already passed away. So the opportunities to listen to their first-hand stories are becoming less and less every second. So we must simply remember them, but we must discuss possible actions we can take together and individually. This is why we started this new project called Every Second Counts for the Survivors. You can find more information about this project on website. So anyway, through this new project, we are collecting the stories of hibakusha and also the supporting voices of the young and elder people around the world to bring it to the first meeting of state parties of TPNW next year in March in Vienna in Austria, so that we can show that hibakusha is still longing for the abolition of nuclear weapons, and also a lot of international community and people are supporting the notions that we need to abolish nuclear weapons from this world. And another example that I would like to briefly introduce is Hiroshima Aiken Academy. As one of the international steering group member of Aiken, Peace Board is organizing this academy in cooperation with Hiroshima Prefecture. And this academy is aiming to nurture global leaders who can make concrete contributions towards our more peaceful and secure world. And we have been doing like 3 times already in 2019, 2020, and 2021. And bringing humanitarian perspectives, like Dr. Sugiono repeated in previously, we would like to bring humanitarian perspectives into nuclear weapons and security policies. That is really, really important for Hiroshima Prefecture and Aiken and Peace Board. So this academy is taking place under 4 themes. That is humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons. The second is political, legal, and technical aspects of nuclear weapons and global security. The third one is civil society in action, like Peace Board or ICANN, and diplomacy for disarmament and security, and the role of the United Nations. So those are the 4 themes that we are dealing with the international young activists and also young professionals who are going to lead their countries and the world. So far, we had 3 times already, and number of participants so far were 77 from 30 countries and regions. And those are the names of the countries that we had the participants from. And those are the photos from 2019 and 2020 and 21. Obviously, in 2019, we managed to have those international participants coming to Hiroshima in person. And we saw a lot of things together. And we walked together through the Peace Park and Peace Memorial in Hiroshima together. And we learned together a lot. But unfortunately, because of the COVID, we had to have this academy online since 2020, but still we have more participants from 2020 to join us. So we're very happy, and also we're very happy to have a lot of diverse international participants to join this academy so far. So that's about it from me. Those are the examples that we are doing from Japan side, and we're very proud. Other like Asian countries or Pacific countries, including Malaysia, Philippines, Mongolia, and also probably Indonesia soon, are leading this world to make this world free of nuclear weapons. But we promise that we are going to keep pressuring the government of Japan to sign and join the TPNW, and we're going to share the past experiences with hibakusha in the past. So that's all. That's from me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Watanabe, for your amazing insights on activism in Japan and also how the Peace Board operates and its contributions. I'm sure our audience has several questions for you, which we will address at the end of the session. So thank you. Our next speaker is Ms. Tessa Toms, who is the co-chair of Amplify. Amplify is an international network of the younger generation of leaders in the field of nuclear abolition. They seek to attain human security and sustainability through diplomacy, cooperation, and trust, which are impossible in the presence of nuclear weapons. Welcome, Ms. Toms. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Nalisa. Namaskar and greetings from India. Also very warm greetings of Christmas that's coming up to all of you. So I am Tessa and in India, and I've been involved with youth activism for almost 4 years now. So first I'll be talking about Amplify, and then I'll talk about youth activism, and then I'll even, probably end by giving a few ideas on how to come as a youth network. If few of you are from universities and you're thinking of how to come as a youth network, I'll just share a few ideas. So to begin with, Amplify, it is an international youth network, and we were strongly present during the TPNW negotiations. That's the treaty to prohibit nuclear weapons. So at that time, a delegation was, we are a whole youth delegation, a complete youth delegation. And there were 16 of us. Our goal was and is for complete nuclear disarmament. So that was like our fixed goal, and that's what we are striving to work towards now as well. And we are also trying to expand and legitimize the scope of disarmament education. We strongly work towards inclusion of disarmament education in the treaty text of the TPNW. And I'm so glad to say we were successful in that. Collaborated with a lot of other civil society members and even governments, and we have TPNW stating disarmament education in bold letters. I'm so glad about that. Now, I'll talk about youth activism. So what Amplify has done is, it's basically banged on the three very qualities of us as youth. So if I just go, first quality is we have energy, which makes us really fast-paced, like we're very fast. So let me share an incident with you. So I remember during the TPNW negotiations, all of us, we were sitting in the gallery of the conference room. And let me tell you, even probably the UN Web TV would have given its hands up, because it couldn't match the speed with which we were posting minute by minute information through Twitter, social media. So when an ambassador finishes, even before he finishes his speech, his content is already out on social media. That's the level of speed with which we were spreading information. We were trying to garner and collect sympathies and sentiments. Second is we are passionate. All of us are very passionate. So if we are convinced about something, no matter what may come, we just don't leave. We just go for it. Be it any obstacles, any restrictions, we actually don't care. So I remember an incident where we were behind the ambassador, to get an appointment with the ambassador of United States, permanent representative of US to the UN. And no matter what, he wasn't giving us an appointment. Day 1, day 2, day 3. So probably, his office must have thought, they won't come after like day 5. But he was very shocked that we kept on knocking his door until he made sure that he saw us. Finally, he gave us a time. We spoke to him. He spoke to us. We shared our views. So this is a second quality. If we are passionate, we are convinced about something, we just go for it. The third thing, we youth, we are networking creatures. You know, there's this joke about youth that goes about that if you put a youth in an island, in 7 days, even the elephant would be the friend. The squirrel takes just 24 hours. In 7 days, even the elephant would be the friend of the youth. That's like the joke that goes around about the youth. So we are networking creatures. What happens is we just connect with like-minded people, and that's like our power. We don't work in silos. We need companions, and this is the speciality about the youth. We can take the whole society along and go forward. You know, we just don't think about going alone. If we are going, we make sure we have 10 people walking along with us. So that's another thing about as a youth. So the first thing, that we are very energetic and very fast paced. Secondly, that we are very passionate, and thirdly, that we are networking creatures, is what makes us successful as youth. So there's this thing that even if India and Pakistan or Japan or North Korea might be fighting, if you put their youth in a room, they'll be having a pizza party. That's like the norm that goes about. So Amplify did exactly like Amplify brought youth together, and with the scope of going beyond strategic differences. We as youth, we really don't care what our leaders fight for and what they fight for. We make sure that we go as one unit, and that's the power. That's where the power rests. And I would like to say a story. How youth activism changed the whole face of UN negotiations. So probably before this decade, probably in the 2008, 9, 10, maybe up to 11, 12, there were ambassadors used to sit in the conference room, and there were people in the gallery. UN TV, UN TV wasn't there though, but press statements and press conferences used to happen. So ambassadors had a very nice time. They used to give appointments, so on and so forth. So it was very formal bureaucratic style. When the youth started getting active, what happened was, I'll tell you just a single scene from TPNW negotiations. So, there's this conference room, United Nations conference room. So a level below, you have all the ambassadors sitting in their chairs allotted, and the civil society sits in the gallery. So what happened in that negotiation is, all of us youth, we really don't care if we get a leather chair or a good table. We just sat on the floor. If you had been there in the gallery, you would have seen that, oh, the gallery has become none less than a university setup, where all of us youth are sitting with the laptops on the floor. We have our chips on one side, we have coffees on another side. We are sitting in a group on posting social media information on Twitter, on Facebook, YouTube. Sorry, we are clicking clips, putting it on YouTube. So what happened was, with such speed, even the ambassadors were like, I just spoke and it's there on internet. So I remember one of the ambassadors coming and talking to us. She was like, sorry. She was like, it's not even 5 minutes since I spoke. Why do I find my name all over Twitter? So one of our members of a delegation was like, oh ma'am, that's us. That's just plain you, it's just us. And hence they understood, the ambassadors understood that if they really want to make a difference, they have to pay importance to what the youth is saying, what the youth is trying to do. So precisely this is how we shaped TPNW negotiations. There was a time when disarmament education was not getting included in the treaty text. So, excuse me. So what we did was we went and knocked the door of every ambassador we could. Ireland, Austria, Venezuela, all of them. So what happened was we tried, it was not just Amplify, all of us. We had Aiken with us, we had members from IPPNW. So we were a lot, when people saw us, we were like this amplified version of people power. So we approached ambassadors, and then we sat with them, we spoke, we made sure our concerns are shared very clearly. And then what happened was ambassadors started networking with each other. And then there was this whole group of ambassadors who were voicing for disarmament education. And finally, we had disarmament education in the treaty text. So that's like the power of youth. We can drive negotiations. We can change the course of negotiations. Only we know what our power is. So this is how youth activism can be used to the fullest, can be used to bring positive change. And that's what Amplify is trying to do. And then in another 2 minutes, I'll say how can you do, how can you be part of networks? So if you are in a university, say you are one person, you have 2-3 people along with you, just say 3 people. You can hold a small pizza party, a pizza evening or a pizza, it's a small event. And you have with all the free Google resources, just create a flyer and just distribute it around the university. Trust me, you will not get more than 10 people. But if you're getting 10 people, great, you're successful. And once you've got those 10 people, you come together, you discuss disarmament issues, you discuss climate issues, and you meet on a regular basis. If now that you 10 people are, you're coming together and you are now you now become a group, you can probably approach university president to form yourselves into a club, disarmament club or a climate change club and things like that. Now, once you are a club, now you have 10 power, you have power of 10. Organize another pizza party and then call people from other universities, call from NGOs and universities in your own, district or province or nearby universities. So you'll get another, don't expect more than 30 people. So, the problem of youth is we expect so much, we expect a crowd of 1,000, and when we get only 30, we become so discouraged. So something I've learned from experience, I'm telling you, let's keep our numbers very little. But, if you get people who are convinced about the issue, even if it's 10, it's like 1,000 in itself. So when I was saying the second phase, when you're inviting people from other universities, you might get just say 30 people. Now that you have 30 people, have frequent pizza parties. So in this particular party, I would recommend you call an expert to talk about the important issues in disarmament. What's the current issue that's happening? What is, get your concepts clear, disarmament education, risk education, gender sensitivity. All these are concepts. Get your concepts clear, get aware about important issues in this realm, ongoing issues, what the UN is trying to do, where different countries are. So an expert will be able to tell you all of it. So once you have, you do this for say 6 months, you have 30 people, you get training in this field. Now, after a year, you can go on for a big event where you hold an event and of say 2-3 provinces, you have 10 universities coming together. You can call for international experts, and that's what raises awareness in a province level or even at the national level. So, well, that is something, after a year, that's like the third phase of everything. Let's start little. And you can always approach Kristen for help. You can always be part of RTT. I think RTT has a lot of chapters which they will discuss later. You can be part of that. You can grow there. You can always reach out to Amplify for ideas. Well, ideas usually come from within, but if you want like to start something, reach out to us for ideas. We can give you ideas. But the thing is, as youth, we should keep going. With this, I will end. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Toms, for sharing your thoughts and experiences on effective strategies for youth activism. And also, I feel like the highlight of the discussion for me, and I feel everyone will agree with me, is how youth are passionate and driven and also great networkers. So thank you so much. Next, we have John Paul Jose, who is a climate activist from India. He has been an avid advocate about climate justice and nuclear dumping since 2015 and actively engages with youth of the region. So excited to have you. John, please go ahead.
Hi, thanks everyone, and thank you Reverse Trend for this wonderful opportunity and invitation, and thanks to my fellow speakers as well. Yeah, so to begin with, like it's often said that if we have like 3 existential threats to humanity, then 2 of them comes within ourselves and 1 will be from our outer space. And we are at that stage of like 2 existential threats coming together. So 1 is climate change and other is like a potential war, because we are building up for a war that doesn't exist, but sometimes it could happen anytime soon. So at this stage, like when since 1945, we have seen like we had only like a few countries focusing on nuclear reactors, the energy and weapons. But again, we are seeing a constant rise in powering up of investing in nuclear energy and reactors. And that issue is because of climate change. Because if we look at all those investments coming in, they come from France, US, China, and Russia. They're the top 4 countries with highest warheads and also with highest number of nuclear reactors. And they are investing highly in India, then countries in Southeast Asian region. That is, Southeast Asian region used to be an area which was a nuclear-free zone, and even China was trying to place it something like that. But with funding from US and especially countries like Russia, now this region as well is turning to a place where like we are seeing increasing number of nuclear reactors. So when we see like issue of climate change as well as issue of nuclear energy, 2 of them are like immediate threat which we are facing now, and even in future it will exacerbate with the kind of increasing investments and focus which we see across the globe. So climate change is an intergenerational issue, because if we doesn't tackle it now, then our generation, then the next generations, all of them are going to be impacted with the impacts and in a worse way. Sorry. And similarly, when it comes to issue of nuclear energy, so we have like radioactive waste, one of the important part of like nuclear reactors and nuclear energy. It's an intergenerational radioactive waste, because it's something like a Damocles sword, which we carry from one generation to another. So it might be hitting our generation, or it might be hitting the generation like 10 or 15 years. So that's what is happening, because so this kind of nuclear winter, or what we call like this kind of a radioactive waste, or this kind of threats are going to be transported to countries in global south, because that's where all those countries, especially like France, US, they are investing with their reactors, and also with like all those waste, because countries like France is exporting waste to other countries, and also they are building up waste storage facilities in forests and remote areas. So similar imitation game is happening across the globe. When it comes to India, India is already having 23 reactors and around 135 nuclear warheads. And last day itself, India tested like a nuclear capable missile. So globally, even in the COP26 climate summit, many nations argued for nuclear energies and also nuclear reactors, saying it is sustainable, peaceful, green, clean, and also like for good for the security of future and averting climate crisis. But when we call it as peaceful, it is like something very much illogical to what it stands for. It's like me applying for a license for pistol, handgun, shotguns, bazooka, missile launchers, and saying I'll be using that for peaceful purpose. The same thing is going for nuclear reactors. So more they have, more reactors, then we will slowly get to see more of nuclear warheads. So that's why we see like when it comes to energy transitions, we could directly move from fossil fuels to renewables. So, but we are like looking forward to opportunities to capitalize more and to earn from like dual profits. So when we go for nuclear, then we get energy. At the same time, we could sell or earn more from armament or like weaponizing countries. Similarly, we have like incinerators where we burn waste and turn to energy. So that is getting rid of waste and also producing energy. Then we have biomass. Logging industry is going to thrive at the same time meeting industrial needs. So similarly, but in all these three areas, we have like other like side effects or spillover effects with like mining of nuclear uranium. A lot of people are going to be displaced, and contamination of water, livelihood, and also with nuclear reactor, again, displacement, and also like testing of nuclears, again, another issue. Similarly, any other environmental issue we say, it is all going to directly impact the livelihood of people. So that's where through which we see like larger activism. So in global north, if we see about activism, it's mainly from the kind of information we get through science media. We get sensitized about that. That's how we build a movement in mostly in global north context. But when it comes to global south, in countries like India or like other regions, it's mainly because of those developments affecting us, our livelihood, our environment, our identity, culture, everything. So that's why, like, rather than preventing nuclear warheads, it's more easy to prevent like a mining site or a nuclear reactor coming up, because first immediate threat is like displacement, displacing a culture, people, or their livelihood or anything. Then they have to live in a situation in a displaced place where living as someone who lost their environment, culture, identity, and all of that. So that's something which we see even in the climate movement. Because why people are advocating for climate justice is because when we are impacted by climate crisis, we lose our livelihood, we lose our environment identity, and sometimes we end up in different country, or we end up in this like refugee camps or anything. So the first people who are going to be get displaced by one of the issues, that is rising sea level, is people of Tuvalu. So if we say people of Tuvalu, then they are the people of Tuvalu. But if they continue to live in Australia once they get displaced, they're no longer the people of Tuvalu, they are Australians. They live in conflict with Australians to protect their culture, identity, all of this. So similar thing happens with increasing number of these environmental issues which we create, because all of these issues which we create for profit and without any adjustment to the reality. So instead of going directly from fossil fuels, we go to renewables. So these impacts which are getting carried away to generations and generations. And when we like in this nuclear is coming again and again as a solution for climate change, and many say it's a development issue, then how did Denmark, New York, then Luxembourg, they all began developed, and none of them had ever had any nuclear reactors. And some say it's like it's an effort to reduce emissions. Then Bhutan, Panama, Suriname, they are like carbon negative, carbon neutral. Then again, a clean and green. Then how about solar and wind? So we all have this solutions, direct solutions, which we have, but we are not going direct to solutions because these developed countries, like I said, who is funding? US, Russia, and countries like France, they are historic emitters because on the one side, they need to hide their emissions. And on the other side, they have to like hide their existing destruction of nature, extraction of fossil fuels and burning coal and other fossil fuels. And they need to divert their uh, that risk and also at the same time the responsibility to poor countries. At the same time, there is an issue called like lack of spaces. So these areas is already developed. Then there are less forests, there are more of industries. And to have more of these industries, it's better to invest in global south. So whether it's any industry or whether it's a nuclear waste dumping site or even dumping of plastic waste or reactors, it's more easy to have like them in global south with plenty of lands available and also at the same time having a lot of poor people to work on it. And these countries, they are rich than anyone could imagine because like India is or other countries are not able to invest alone in one reactor because every year we see like more than like $30 billion of investment in nuclear reactors and energy. So these kind of things are going to rise, and for them it's like a small kind of investment. But if we could use that investment for renewable energy, loss and damage, resilience, mitigation, and also uh, like assist people in their livelihood that is getting lost by climate crisis, that and also nature-based solutions that almost do more justice to addressing climate action and also reducing emissions and paving way for a good transition to green energy and also climate actions. Because nuclear energy is kind of like guiding vulnerable countries in wrong directions. Because all vulnerable countries, they are like mostly moving to renewable energies and also nature-based solutions, but they are like pulling out to something that is wrong, that is nuclear energy. And have something like the US, they're partnering with Kenya, Indonesia, Brazil to expand nuclear power. And not only these countries, Thailand, Laos, and we all the story of Laos, how a quest for hydroelectric export and dams led to like dam disasters like every year, impacting environment, people, and livelihood. So similarly, all those things are going to exacerbate in these situations. And it's also aiding a climate crisis because nowadays we have like floating nuclear reactors. So US, China, and Russia is on the like first countries to do that. That is, they build a ship or anything that floats on the water and it is having a nuclear reactor. So they are saying like it will keep them safe from any effects from any nuclear meltdown or any issues that comes henceforth from nuclear reactors. But again, in an issue like climate crisis, nobody is safe because we had like one of the biggest impact that is from war, 1945 in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Then we had in 1975, Three Mile Island nuclear meltdown. Then we had Chernobyl, 1986. Then we had Fukushima in 2011. So all of them are different stages. So one, if we say it's like Chernobyl is a nuclear disaster, but Fukushima is something due to natural disasters. So all of them happen in a span of like 10 or 30 years. Similarly, before we used to have like once in 100-year flood, so something like that. But with existing issues of climate crisis, every space is more vulnerable than ever. So nuclear reactors in coastal region or anything, or even in other regions, any increasing heat wave, any fire, then that will lead to a big nuclear disasters. Then frequent storms, cyclones, then again, that is again a nuclear disaster. So in a changing climate, it's not a fruitful investment that is nuclear energy. So it's something we should move away. Then that is increasing price and time because the scale at which we invest in nuclear and reactors and energy, if we divert that renewable energy, we could have like tenfold use in energy because it will take years to invest in that, and it is highly centralized and only few locations, but taking up large hectares of land and impacting people livelihood and then or there are all other opportunities because we are completely erasing all this economic activity associated with the land for this nuclear energy. So, but with that time, we could only invest in renewable energy, then that's a good progress. And most of the storage facilities of radioactive waste that is in forest and villages, again affecting people. Then, like I said, exporting of waste. And also another issue which we have now is like, when we see all those nuclear energy and everything, we have those nuclear reactors being built up. Then again, we have nuclear warheads. So if it's not, if it's only for energy, we could only see nuclear reactors. But if it's not for energy, why do we need nuclear warheads? Why do we need like nuclear missiles or missiles capable of nuclear energy? So that's why we again come to that global way in which have, like I said, these few countries pulling out the globe and all countries into this issue of investing in nuclear reactors, and also to kind of move away from their kind of ideas to what they guide, to guide the way in which how they draw us in fossil-free industries. And when we technologically, when we progress from telephone, we progress to smartphone, from desktop to laptop, but this from fossil fuels, we are not able to progress to renewables because they are pulling people out and trying to take the wrong direction, that is nuclear reactors. So like I said, there is also a coalition of 12 EU countries led again by France, aiming for larger nuclear investment across the globe, and also like diluting the progress other EU countries making in nuclear disaster armament, and also in diverting to other nuclear energies. Then there is like 150 new nuclear reactors coming in China. Then also like there are like nuclear reactors coming in India. That's almost like one reactor that is coming in Gorakhpur in India, that is 1,500 acres of land. And there is another coming in Maharashtra near Mumbai that takes up 5 villages, impacting their farmland, fishing zones and everything. And by 2031, India is going to have 21 new reactors. So that means like every nation, they are like continuing to invest in nuclear energy, and how we could stop this is only through activism. Because in all those countries which I talked about, whether it's Laos, India, all of these countries, initially from land acquisition to functioning the nuclear reactors, everything, people are going to be affected. Their livelihood is being affected. So that's the core idea of every environmental movement, or even climate activism. Because when my livelihood is under threat, when our community's livelihood is in threat, and if who is contributing that, we have to fight for it, because we have to stop them to making even the initial move. That's what we say, like prevention is better than cure. So that's what we need in like nuclear disarmament and nuclear activism, and also climate activism. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, John, for such a stimulating insight on the 3 existential crises, and also highlighting the issue of investment from nuclear armed nations. Also, I must say the greenwashing done by nations when it comes to possessing nuclear warheads is something of major concern. So yeah, thank you for. Also now joining us from Malaysia is Sawa Yamanishi, who is a Japanese nuclear disarmament activist and a 3rd generational hibakusha. Now, hibakusha is a word of Japanese origin, generally designating to the people affected by the 1945 atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Currently, she's a student at Sunway College, Malaysia. Lovely to have you here with us. Over to you, Sawa.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, now I would like to talk. Now I would like to introduce you to the activities that I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna share the slides. Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Hello again, my name is Sawa Yamanishi, and I was born and raised in Nagasaki, and I'm a third generation of atomic bomb survivor, which means my grandmother was exposed to radiation when she was 13 years old. When I was 17, I went to the United Nations Geneva and gave a speech about my grandma's experiences and the importance of peace. Nowadays, I graduated from Sunway College and I will enter Monash University next February. So today I speak from Malaysia. Yeah, sorry. Okay, then what I am doing is peace education for junior high and high school in Japan. Last June and July, I did 6 lectures in front of 630 students in total. Even after I came to Malaysia, I did 2 lectures online and did presentations during class time in social science class in my college. When I do a lecture, there are 2 parts. First, I talk about the history, talk about the story of devastation, devastation of the atomic bomb based on my grandmother's experience of bombing and stories of Nagasaki, Hiroshima, and then I will tell how I acted as a role model for students. In the second part, it is a workshop, and it is designed to help students learn about conflict and exclusion in a game-like way, and to teach them the importance of dialogue through experience. Through dialogue, students are encouraged to think about the kind of future they want to live in and the kind of person they want to be in order to achieve this. Now I'm planning to do peace education in high school in some schools this winter too. I started peace education for 2 reasons. One is the aging of hibakusha. Every year I felt that the time would come when there would be no hibakusha left. I felt it was necessary to take action on the big take action on the big issue of passing on peace to future generations. The other reason was my own doubts about peace education. In Nagasaki, every year in August, we listen to A-bomb testimonies and learn that peace is important. However, there are no adults around me who could help me think about what I can do. So I decided to become a person who thinks together. That is why I am currently working on peace education and connects the past, the present, and the future. What can we learn from the past and what can we do now for peace in the future? Through this peace education, I hope that my students will develop the imagination to understand the pain of others. There are many Baksha who have battled with illness, discrimination, and poverty. It is important to understand that this is not an event that can be reduced to 1 or 2 sentences in a textbook or on the news, but that it is a much deeper and more complex issue. And to imagine the pain of those who suffered. I hope that my students will learn to do the same and that they will be empowered to care for others on a daily basis and to care about and act on issues that are happening in the world and in Japan. And at the end of my speech, I'm gonna tell you my motivation is. My life goal is to make peace bloom all over the world. This is the meaning of my name, Sawa. I would like to be the person who confronts the absurdation of the world and helps to link it closer to peace through information and education. I'm still young and there are many things I'm not sure, so I'll keep working hard to achieve this goal. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sava, for your very inspiring thoughts and ideas, and best wishes on your work towards peace education. I would like to thank all the panelists for their presentation. We will now be moving on to the interactive discussion with our speakers. And so if you have any questions for our speakers, please feel free to put them in the chat. And for now, I have taken the most often cited questions and will be posing them to our panelists. So whoever would like to address these questions, please take the floor. My first question would be that keeping in mind the multidimensional threat that nuclear weapons pose, how can we collaborate with activists from various fields in attaining nuclear disarmament? For instance, an activist working for indigenous rights or gender equality or even racial justice. If you can share an instance where you work together with activists from another field, that would be great. So please go ahead.
Shall I go first or somebody else?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay, so when we talk about multi-dimensional collaboration, Amplify had in its delegation a doctor, a youth activist, a gender activist, a human rights activist, and all a variety of it. So when you talk about collaboration, the reason why there is collaboration is the underlining issue that is of threat to the humanity. That's the underlining issue. So whatever dimension you're looking at, the common issue is the underlying threat to humanity. And be it through gender sensitivity, be it through human rights, be it through as a youth, what one needs to do is find those common points. Because, say, for example, disarmament is about disarmament education. It is about risk education. Risk education is about making people aware of if they're living in a particular high risk areas or zones. You need to make people aware about that. Humanitarian issues. So it's about collaborating among different people so that different facets of those ideas come into place. And when you present it at a global level, at the UN or even to your national governments, national government or UN would not see it as one single goal. It would be able to see as a multidimensional. So it is just as easy as inviting people from a youth organization, a human rights organization, a gender organization to come and be a part of your goal. Yeah, others can add.
Yeah, for me, I have been in like a different kind of activism, because initially I started with social activism. Then I was also involved with women rights, anti-rape activism, and also like environmental activism. So as an activist, like we cannot just accept any kind of injustice. So today we might be a climate activist, or tomorrow we might be a human rights activist, because all of them are like kind of interlinked, because we are at the same time advocating for justice. We are not advocating only for just one space. So in climate justice, it's like kind of we see an incorporation of almost everything, because the like existence of climate crisis or even existence of nuclear energy, there are like chain of people who are getting impact from, like I said, having a mining site in forest, then that means indigenous people are getting affected. Then a nuclear dumping site or reactor in a farmland, then farmers are affected. So people dependent on different livelihood, and people dependent on different regions, they all are impacted at different stages of this process that leads to like nuclear weapons. So there is like a chain of agencies involved and people in that interjunction. So all of them needs justice. So we need like a more collaborative effect, or when we advocate for actions. Yeah.
I think Rika and Sawa, would you like to comment on that?
Sawa-san, do you want to go ahead?
Sorry, I'm okay.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. It's very briefly, thank you, and Tessa and John, I really agree with you. And then from my point of view as well, like I said earlier, like putting the humanitarian perspective in the nuclear disarmament and also climate issue is the key for young people and for elderly people as well. Because I personally learned that if we take this nuclear issue as the political issue, on a global level or like a national level, national like elite level and the governmental level, we commonly put our humanitarian perspective as much as it needs to be. So once we started to think about how it affects the humans or the citizens, we all of a sudden noticed that it is really inhumane or illegal. This this will cause the discrimination or gender imbalance. So if we think or if we put the humanitarian perspective in this issue, we will see the wider perspective, like climate change is interconnected, and also gender issue is interconnected, and also like John said, nuclear issue is not only the nuclear weapons, but also nuclear energy is also interconnected as well. And we see when we see the COP26 recently, I was also concerned about the debate is going directly from the fossil fuel energy to the nuclear energy, because that is consuming less CO2, but that is very dangerous. We have to think about the way to use more renewable energy, changing from the fossil fuel. So that is something that we see. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, all the panelists. We have a question from the audience, from Christian. So he's writing from Philippines, and he says that considering the existential weight nuclear states have on their shoulder in international peace and security, do you think these states still have the capability and responsibility to manage and protect international order? If so, how much does that affect their obedience and participation to rules that apply to other actors in the international system, especially other states and civil societies? And while it seems easy to speak for disarmament, how realistic is disarmament activism in shaping this issue? And most of all, assure that disarmament is the best or even only solution in midst of such interests that various actors benefit from? Yeah, I think it's a very long question, but I hope that you all got the gist of it. So who would like to go first?
Sorry, I'm not so good at English, so it takes time to think about it. Sorry.
No problem. You can just read the question from the chat box, and whenever you're ready, maybe we can discuss on it.
Yeah, I will go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so similarly, we have like a historic responsibility for emissions. Those affluent or rich countries, those nuclear states, they also have that responsibility to take immediate action to move away from conflicting activities, because like when we lost the balance of way in which we used to progress due to colonialism and all those things, we began to follow those Western model, like Eurocentric model. So whatever the West does, we imitate. If they use fossil fuels, we also use that. If they industrialize, if they build cities, we also do that. So similarly, the kind of thing like nuclear reactors came in a similar fashion to us, because they taught us, to the global south and everyone, like that is the means of producing energy. But there used to be something behind that, that is like arming up those nations, including how former Soviet Union exploited all those Balkan regions with nuclear reactors and all those things. So they have that historic responsibility to, like, if it's a nuclear reactor energy, they should actually move away from those kind of investments. So same kind of thing when we talk about in the area of climate justice. Like for instance, if we say like US to move away from nuclear reactors or anything, Similarly, if we say US to move away from fossil-free industries, there are like attempts to move away from that in their country, but they invest in other countries. So it's an idea comes through national interest. So in front of the citizens, in front of their voters, they act very much responsible, but to the international audience, they are not responsible because they kind of like pull those international audience into this idea of like pollution or kind of disastrous issues by continuing to concentrate on those activities. And disarmament is like a difficult question because like every nation have kind of like difficult interest in terms of their nation. So if India says like we are using nuke against Pakistan, then there will be more Indians like rejoicing than kind of like those who oppose it. So we have like kind of this sensationalism built around like war and peace, like we have like, across the globe. But when we need like larger education, like at least we should let the future generations know about like these kind of issues. Like in every nation, we like teach about like glorifying the victories or glorifying the atrocities they committed against other nations as part of nationalism and all those things. We never teach about the like harms or like threats or sufferings of the other nations. So if we do that, we grow some sympathy. So doesn't want that in a capitalist world. We doesn't need that. So in a global arena, we can have national interest because in tackling issues like climate change or like peace, we need to keep national interest within our geographical boundaries. And in spaces like COP or even NPT platforms, we should actually be placing the globe first because the peace and security of globe is important. So in most nations or in international level, we have like in contexted areas, we have like UN peacekeeping force. So similarly, we need something like that, an international body to tackle with a humanitarian assistance or disaster management rather than every nation's like diverting their funds for arming up rather than focusing on their socioeconomic progress. Like even poor nations are diverting their like 70-80% budgets to defense rather than focusing on the people, their upliftment on all those things. So we should actually have to realize like where to use our funds or where or how we should be equipping ourselves with a defense system or whom we should be defending against. Like, should we defend ourselves against or should we take arms against each other like fellow human beings, or should we kind of have a different mechanism or arrangements? Yes.
To which I would like to add is that there are multiple facets in this question. I would want to address two very important ones. First is how would nations manage the responsibility, of maintaining stability in the international order. One thing is nations managed stability even before nuclear weapons existed. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, we can hear you.
Nuclear weapons did not define how nations charted their foreign policy or how they, maintained their international relations. Nuclear weapons came just 50 years ago. However, nations maintained stability even before then. So it's not about how nuclear weapons is driving international relations. No, it's just part of international relations. Now the thing is, the very reality is even the leaders know. For example, I'm taking example of India, Pakistan, and China because all three are nuclear power states, and this is like the very hotbed in global. So, for example, even if there is a nuclear explosion in India, in Pakistan, or in China, you know the geography, right? The Earth revolves from west to east. So what happens is even if there is a nuclear explosion, you have all those radiation traveling to other parts of the world. So it's not just one particular geography that you've bombed or you have attacked. It's that the effect of that particular bombing is definitely in that particular geography, but it's constantly traveling across the continent. So it's the whole continent that has suffered. So that's why disarmament is so important, that it's not just one particular geography, one community that is getting affected. It's like it is more at a continental level and even intercontinental level. Now, the second thing about is this disarmament can be a solution only if it benefits. There are a lot of various actors that benefit from it. Well, not exactly. Chemical weapons convention did not come up because there were, multiple actors, wanting it or benefiting from such a convention. No, it was because much underlying reason, perhaps I would say, was a humanitarian issue. Using chemical weapons or biological weapons is like abuse to humanity, similar to using nuclear weapons. The states understood it. State understood how human rights can be abused through use of chemical weapons, and today we have a successful chemical weapons convention. Nuclear weapons are the same, is of the similar nature. You don't wait for finding actors who benefit from it, because nuclear weapons is similar abuse to humanity. And secondly, it's use of nuclear weapons to maintain international order is an advertised issue. We as youth, we need to know the truth behind it. The states want to grow in it, they perpetuate such an idea, but we know the reality of how it is abuse. Just a small warhead can destroy like generations. So that would be my answer to the question is, first, that it does not drive international relations, it is part of international relations. And second, how nuclear weapons is not, disarmament is not a solution only if few factors benefit. No, its underlying issue is that it needs to happen because the alternative is abuse to the humanity.
Can I go next?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I often think about whether the abolition of nuclear weapons is feasible or not, but I always come to the conclusion that it is not a question of whether it is possible or not, but that nuclear weapons must be abolished. I think it will take a very long time because nuclear weapons are at the heart of the international security system. But as long as there is even one nuclear weapon in the world, the possibility of new hibakusha will not be zero. So this is my wish, but I want to abolish them. That's all.
Yes, I totally agree to it. Rika, do you have any comments on it?
Thank you. Just briefly, in order to answer the question, like said, do you think these nuclear states still have the capability and responsibility to manage and protect international order? My answer is no. Let's see the current situation with the COVID and also climate change, and also like John mentioned that Japan had the Fukushima in 2011, and we are still dealing with it, and we are the people. The local people are still suffering. So look at the situation. How can the nuclear states can deal with the catastrophe or consequences of nuclear weapons? And that will create the radiation effect and everything. So then my answer is no. That's why we need the solidarity between the people of the nuclear free non-nuclear states, and also even the people in the nuclear states. We have to have the hands in hands and to work together in order to abolish it. So prevention is more important than cure. I agree. That's all.
Yeah, thank you all the panelists on that. Due to time constraints, we won't be able to take any more questions, but yeah, I would like to I would like to ask all the panelists if they have any ending notes for the youth, on maybe how they can engage or how they can start their journey. So anything you would like to say to all the participants today?
Just add that we, the youth, have the power to change, and that's not a statement I make without believing in it. I believe that we have the power to change, and I've seen that in reality. And all I say is we should not wait for someone to show us the way or lead us through the way. We should start working now, today, because the future is ours. If we don't try to secure it, nobody's going to secure for us. So we should start today. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you to all the panelists for that amazing, incredible discussion. I personally got to learn so much today. And honestly, discussions like these compel us to at least think about these issues. And yeah, so this was, I feel like a good starting point for all those youth or even activists who are starting out in this field. Yeah, thank you for everyone who was present here today. Now, I'm sure that many of you are wondering, how do we get involved and how do we put our interest or our knowledge to practice? So that question will be answered by Emma. So without further ado, over to you, Emma.
Yeah. Yes, Mona Lisa, thank you so much. And also thank you so much to all of our panelists from today, everyone who's joined this event. Truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for, your time and your attention. And I have to say, I am so, so inspired after listening to everyone, and especially from the youth, that energy, like Tessa, you were talking about, is just so incredible. So yeah, really, thank you. My name, as Mona Lisa said, is Emma. I am with Reverse the Trend, or RTT, in the role of educational consultant. And I'd like to give you a little bit of just a brief look into what RTT is all about and some of the exciting things we have going on, and also how you can get involved. So I'm actually going to show our awesome website to navigate through a few of the things on our website. Firstly, you can see at the bottom of each page, at the very bottom, if you scroll, these are some of our partner organizations. So you may recognize some. They include the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation, Peace Boat, who we heard from today. Thank you, Rika. Also Youth for TPNW and Aiken, among others. So I'm first going to go to our mission, because that's really the foundation of everything that we do. And if you want to read the mission in full, you can read it here. But as you can see, it's written here that, and as we've heard today, the public has often a very limited understanding of the effects of nuclear weapons on both the environment and on people. And these are very real problems that affect us all. I think that is clearer than ever to me after today's event. And they affect, at the moment, some of us more than others, right? So while global leaders have very long been reluctant to address these issues, youth, on the other hand, across the world, like the ones that we've heard from today, have really been standing up, right, to demand action from leaders and also to demand their own future. And so while young people clearly are not lacking in any kind of passion or determination, what is missing sometimes are the tools that they need for effective mobilization, as well as direct pathways that youth can have to engage with global leaders. And so this is where RTT comes in. We provide practically educational resources. We encourage movement building through various mediums of art. We create opportunities for youth around the world to share both their local stories and histories in public and policy spaces, so to make those accessible. And we also provide this global network within which youth can navigate. So we'll talk more about this later, but the ultimate mission really of RTT, which Christian touched on at the very beginning of the event, is to support youth in rising up and taking action to change the world, and to really just support them as much as we can. So to that end, I'm going to go to the top here to resources to show you just a couple of the resources that RTT has produced so far. We have a toolkit, which is, again, a practical resource that is aimed at educating and moving youth to be able to engage in these issues. And so it takes a step first, facts. Well, actually, this can be for anyone. It's really not just for youth, of course, but facts, and then shifting the discourse to human security, and then moving to the intersectional approach that we can take. And then finally, what can the youth do? Really practical guidance and resources. So there's a toolkit to please explore in your own time. We also have a curriculum, which is more geared, of course, for use in formal education. And here you can see all of these different lesson plans that we have, which of course, in addition to being used together, they can be used in isolation. So if you see a particular topic that you're interested in, or if you are a person in the educational space, this is an amazing resource that we have. So those are some of our resources. You can see, I haven't gone through all of them, but I also want to show you this What's Going On tab, where you can keep up with some of our recent activities. So just for example, here's a climate justice statement. And this was written by Pacific Youth and together with our RTT Pacific chapter. And in this statement, the youth from that region really take a stand, right, for the lives and the rights of people in their frontline communities. So you can read that here. That's just one example of some of our activities. And you can also learn more about some of the people that make up RTT, which could also be you. And so in this About Us chapter, I'm going to look at the team. Some of these faces you've seen today. But I want to highlight specifically down here our advisors. So, toward our mission to really ensure that we can engage with frontline communities in the most meaningful and the most effective ways, we really rely on guidance and assistance from experienced activists who are already involved in these communities. So you can learn more about each of them here, and you can see their wonderful faces, and they are really, really key to our movement. And I'll scroll back to the top. You might have noticed that I have referred to RTT chapters. So for example, with the climate justice statement, RTT Pacific chapter. We currently have chapters in Japan, Korea, South Asia, which includes Southeast Asia, in the US, RTT Francophone, Africa, and also Canada. And we operate in a very decentralized way. So each of these chapters operates on its own, separately from the others. And since different countries and different regions of the world have different needs and priorities in terms of nuclear disarmament and climate justice activism, this autonomy really allows the chapters to put their efforts where they're most needed. And so I may actually stop sharing so I can see all of your faces, but currently we're actually looking for youth to join us. And so if you enjoyed this event today, and if the issues that we've discussed are things that you care about and want to get involved in yourself, please consider joining the RTT chapter in your region. And I also want to mention, we obviously don't have chapters yet that encompass the entire world. And so even if you currently live in a region or a country where there isn't currently an RTT chapter, please get involved. You can get in touch with us. I'll actually share my screen again. So you can see on the homepage, you can go directly if you have Instagram, here, Twitter, Facebook, and also email is a great way. We'll put the email in the chat. But yes, so we're going to put also in the chat a Google form, a very, very short, a couple of questions Google form that you can fill out and show your interest if you want to get involved. So yeah, please be on the lookout for that. We'll also send it out to you. And the other thing I want to say is we're going to be having information sessions in the coming weeks about joining RTT. So if you want to join, or if you want to learn more, or you know somebody who you think is interested, please expect communication about that. But also, please, don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. We love, of course, always hearing from new people, and we just want to support as many people and especially youth as possible. So really, thank you so much for joining us today. And we really hope to see you in the near future. And I will now pass the floor to Sarah, who will share a little bit about our the other organization that organized this event with us today, ISIA.
Thank you. Yes, so I am Sarah. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Outreach at ISIA, which is another one of the organizations that organized this event. ISIA stands for Inter-School Social Issues Association, and we are a Hong Kong-based youth-led NGO, which is actually the biggest one in Hong Kong. And so we aim to empower young voices, and we target a large variety of social issues beyond disarmament issues and into human rights issues, etc. So if you're a high school student or a university student, or just very interested in these, in a wide variety of social issues, do feel free to complete the Google form that I'm about to just send in the chat. It's very short, just your name and your contact and why you're interested, just so we can contact you when we have the opportunity to do so. A little bit about ISIA, if I can present my screen. I don't know if, can you all see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. So a little bit about ISIA, as I said, there's this focus on having youth involved and having different kinds of education that is also being promoted. So peer-to-peer and project-based learning, giving students the opportunity to work with each other and learn from each other. And as I said, we have a focus that is spread out on articles, podcasts, docuseries, research, surveys, etc. And we are looking to expand beyond our reach, which is already quite large, with 70 plus schools and 300 plus aspiring change makers and 30 plus projects and initiatives. So we plan on expanding more throughout Asia beyond Hong Kong. And we look forward to integrating more people to ISIA, and also we look forward to having future partnerships with RTT and any other organizations with the same aims as us. So of course, if you represent an organization that you believe aligns with ISIA, feel free to contact us. This is the email, and if you go on the Google form, you can also have our website and Instagram, which is also a way to contact us. So once again, thank you so much to everyone who joined this event, both the speakers that were very motivational and very enlightening, and everyone else who wanted to attend. So thank you.
Yes, and before we conclude, I would like to mention that unfortunately he could not be here, Dr. Tosui. The winner